All right. So welcome everybody. Again, I'm Dr. Matthew Hicks, here from Synaptic Integrative Care and Training Institute, here to talk about our Entheogenic Medicine Training Program. And this presentation is being recorded, just so everyone is aware of that. For those of you watching the recording, welcome as well. Let's see, we'll go ahead and get the next slide to come up. Here's a little bit about me. I'm originally from Kansas City, Missouri. I've been in Portland for 10 years now, so it's definitely home. I served for 6 years in the Army National Guard, during which I was completing my bachelor's in liberal arts. I went on to earn a doctorate degree in naturopathic medicine, as well as a master's in integrative medical research. I did projects in mindfulness, the expectancy effect in mindfulness, and I did another study in empathy and burnout in naturopathic medical students. Both those are published. You could look those up. And then after graduating, I did a residency focused on mental health, which was always the emphasis of my education. I did a lot of additional coursework to specialize in that. Ultimately went on to go to the California Institute of Integral Studies program in psychedelic-assisted therapy and research. I completed the MAPS MDMA program, and then ultimately went on to do even some more training with ketamine-assisted therapy with Polaris Insight Center. And then in 2020, I decided to start Synaptic. And that has sort of a threefold vision. And that vision is to not only be an integrative mental health clinic with multiple provider types, providing a variety of mental health services, including psychedelic assisted therapies, but also research and as well as training. So that's sort of the big picture. I did found it as an LLC, of which I'm the sole owner. I have gone back and forth, and still to this day I'm considering converting it into a nonprofit. So that is a possibility, but as of now it is just an LLC, but the intentions are the same regardless of the legal structure. But anyway, that's a little bit about me and the program. What we're going to talk about today is the Measure 109. I'll give you a brief overview of Measure 109. I'm not going to spend too much time on it because there are other resources out there that summarize it better. I'm going to be efficient with our time and have time for questions. But I'm going to spend a little bit of time in the training program guidelines put forward by that board, and then spend a fair amount of time, the bulk of the time, really talking about specifically this EMT program. And by EMT, I mean Entheogenic Medicine Training Program, which is what the terminology I'm choosing to use. So we'll get into the mission and vision, the faculty, the curriculum, and some of the admissions criteria and whatnot, and then we'll make some time for questions at the end. So first couple things to cover here, just the overview of Measure 109, which passed in November 2021, or exactly 2020 rather. Which essentially provided authority to the Oregon Health Authority to regulate this measure that passed. And that created also this psilocybin advisory board. And the operative word there is advisory, meaning it's a panel of experts in the psilocybin field, but ultimately their recommendations are just that, recommendations. The final authority for making any decisions and regulating this program lies with the Oregon Health Authority, which serves under the authority of the governor. And I just also want to point out that this website is the government website for the program. You can see the screenshot there in the URL, where you can read the full text of the measure, and you can see the program's doing, I think, a pretty good job in terms of their transparency with this process. All their meetings are open to the public. You can go on there and see upcoming meetings. You can watch past meetings. The Zoom recordings are available. as well as the meeting minutes and any documents they produce, including things like the training requirement guidelines. So that's where you want to go for more information around that. But just to put it briefly, what Measure 109 did was create this psilocybin service initiative, which does not permit recreational sales of psilocybin. It's not like cannabis. What it does allow is for anyone who is 21 years of age or older to have a supervised psilocybin experience. And so any municipality, be it a city or county, can opt out by passing a law saying we don't want this in our jurisdiction. And then within that framework, there is a requirement for at least one visit before the administration visit for screening and preparation. Then the administration session can take place, which again is a licensed service center with a licensed professional using licensed psilocybin to have that experience. And then an integration session is then must be offered, but is not mandatory to participate in that. One of the sort of shortcomings that some people have pointed out is that there's no provision for microdosing in this measure. There's more to be said about that, and other initiatives like the one that they're working on in Washington, where they have accounted for that, and they're trying to improve upon this model. But this is the law we have. This is what passed. So, like I said, it created the Psilocybin Advisory Board, but all the final authority rests at the OHA. It creates 4 types of licenses: one to manufacture or grow psilocybin mushrooms, one for a laboratory, one for a facility where all of these services have to take place in one of these licensed facilities, and then a license for facilitators, which go to individuals providing the service. So a few other little clauses they put in here, many of which I very much appreciate. One is that in order to get a license to be a facilitator, you have to be an Oregon resident for 2 years. The intention behind that is to prevent an influx of people wanting to start a new career in a psilocybin guide, all moving to Oregon, and we just have this massive influx of people moving here. But that does expire in 2025, so that doesn't last forever. This law created a 2-year development period, so we're halfway through that now. And basically the rest of the law will take full effect in January 2023, which is going to be here sooner than we might think. Anyway, there's that to look forward to. What it also does is prevents any individual from having more than 5 service centers in terms of ownership. They can only have up to 5. That's to prevent any one entity becoming a little too dominant, or more than one manufacturing facility. And then the ownership of these facilities, licenses, or groups has to be at least 50% held by Oregon residents. So I appreciate the effort there to keep sort of big interests from outside the state coming in and controlling it too much. So a few things about the timeline here. And I'm not going to say anything about what's already passed, other than earlier this month, the Oregon Psilocybin Advisory Board, or OPAB, submitted their proposed guidelines for the training program as best they see fit. Now, they've also formed a rules advisory committee, which is independent from the OPAB, and they will review everything the OPAB comes up with and make their own recommendations to the Oregon Health Authority. The Oregon Health Authority will then review both the OPAB recommendations and the Rules Advisory Committee recommendations and make their own decision. They could throw out everything and come up with their own. They could adopt it exactly as it's recommended, or something in between, modify it in some way. But that's how the process is supposed to look. So as it relates specifically to training, they have sort of fast-tracked the training issue in front of all the other issues because of the backlog of having to get licensed providers through a training program. Those training programs have to be audited and approved before they can start, and all of this takes time, of course. And me as a person who's developing a program, I'm waiting for these guidelines so I can modify the program to fit them so we can get approval and all this stuff. So it sort of creates this time crunch that we're under. But anyway, the next meeting for the Rules Advisory Committee is tomorrow, if you're watching this live, so you can check that out. The website has 2 different times. It says in one place that it's at 9 a.m. and then on the meeting agenda it says it's at 1. So show up both if you can. If you want to hear their comments on the training committee recommendations around the guidelines for training. Okay, so from there will also be a public listening session. So this is an opportunity for the public. Anybody can come take a turn and chime in. Usually the way those have gone is that nobody responds to your comments. It's just notes are taken, and the OHA will take those comments into consideration from the public. So like I said, that will be in April. They'll have one regarding training, and then in the fall, all these processes will be repeated for the other issues. So for products and licensing and service centers and whatnot, they'll go through all that again, where the OPAB will come up with their recommendations. The Rules Advisory Committee will talk about them and deliberate over them, and they'll make their recommendations. And then OHA in December will decide on their final rules. Regarding training, the OHA will decide by the end of May their final rules regarding training programs, so that by early June, we should have the final criteria for training programs to submit applications and then be audited for approval or accreditation to offer their training, so that people taking those trainings can ultimately apply for the facilitator license. And then January 2023, which will be here in no time, people who have gone through that training will be eligible to take the licensing exam, get a license, and start providing services. So a lot of things happening in a short period of time. And that's what I can tell you. Again, go back to the OHA website that I mentioned earlier for more information, to check on the specific dates, some of which are not very specific right now. It just says April or May, but they will, as time approach, nail those dates down. Okay, so what has the OPAB set forth as their guidelines? This is it. So again, just to emphasize this, as it stands now, these are the board's recommendations, and the Oregon Health Authority could change these. So we are working on, modifying our program to fit this criteria, assuming that it will be adopted as it is. And if these are modified, we will modify them as necessary. Pretty much in all of their recommendations, they've set a set of minimums. So if we exceed those minimums, generally speaking, we should be okay. But this is what they came up with. So they have a 120-hour minimum of what they're calling core training, and by core training, they mean didactic, kind of lecture type of material to get through for that, and then 40 hours of practicum training. And of those 40 hours, they want 30 of them to be direct practicum, which means observation primarily is how they're defining that. And then 10 hours of consultation, which is having some sort of supervisor give you feedback on your performance or your observations of that. But of the core training, they're recommending that 40% of those hours can be waived for prior experience. Now, the criteria for waiving that for prior experience is not well defined, so I can't say exactly what that will be. but 40% can be waived except for the ethics and the cultural equity and diversity components of it. And I'll talk more about all the hours required for that in just a bit. They're also requiring 25% of those hours to be in person. And for all the hours that are not in person, half of them have to be done live, meaning that the other half could be pre-recorded. So I put that in other words here so you can see the number of hours. So 48 hours of those 120 could theoretically be waived for, let's say, a psychotherapist who has done like the CIIS program, let's say. Again, I don't know what they're going to accept for prior experience. Does that include underground work? Does it include someone who's been down in Mexico doing this in a legal jurisdiction? Can't say. Don't know. Maybe they leave that up to programs to make their own criteria. Again, don't know yet. Hopefully they'll come up with some more concrete guidelines for us. But that's what I know now. So operating under that assumption, you could do as little as 72 core training hours or up to 120. That's the window for that. So the in-person training then could be as little as 18 hours in person or as much as 30 hours in person. My program will have two in-person retreats that are going to be about 32 hours. So we'll get that regardless of what needs to be waived or not. Again, that's specific to my program. But 75% of those core training hours can be done online. So that's either 54 hours of the minimum 72 or 90 hours of the 120. And then respectively, that can be 27 online or pre-recorded, or 45 live or 45 pre-recorded, depending on the total number of hours needed. I hope that made sense. So here are the modules that they have put forward, the way they have defined the curriculum. And in parentheses there, they have the minimum hours required in each module. So those modules are the historical, traditional, and contemporary plant medicine practices and applications, where you have to do 12 hours. The diversity, equity, and inclusion module, which is 12 hours, and that one cannot be waived. So everyone will do a minimum 12 hours on that subject. Ethics and responsibility of facilitator, 10 hours. That it can also not be waived. And then the rest of them could theoretically be some portion of them waived, and that includes the pharmacology, neuroscience, and clinical research, core facilitation skills, preparation sessions, administration, integration, and group sessions. So personally, I find this process to be a little bit cumbersome in terms of writing the subject areas, which I think are best taught in a more fluid way, kind of jumping in and out of them. But that's what they came up with. This does equal up to the 120 total. So my hope is that they'll revise that to reduce some of these numbers so that there's minimums, but they don't necessarily equal up to 120. So if we want to emphasize, I think integration should be longer and the administration should be shorter, for example, in terms of minimum requirements. But that's what we got. That's the guidelines as they are. So that was what I can tell you about what the board has come up with and the requirements as they stand presently. Now I'm going to talk a little bit about specifically Synaptics Program. So the faculty and I came up with this mission and vision statement, which is: we envision a world with a widespread network of highly skilled practitioners providing care and connection to self, others, and the world at large. Our mission is to cultivate skillful, ethical, and socially responsible practitioners of entheogenic medicine rooted in holism, traditional wisdom, and science. And we are very much open to any feedback anyone has about that. It's always a work in progress, but we feel pretty happy with that as our mission and vision, what we're trying to do specifically with this program. So I also think it's really important to talk a little bit, not just about kind of these broad mission and vision, but also like if I were in your position trying to decide between multiple programs, what other values and intentions are there? Because you do have a choice. There are other programs out there, and mine might not be the right one for you. And so what does it mean to be in the Synaptic program? What do you hope to gain out of it? Or what are we doing with it? And one of the things I observe in the psychedelic movement is this sort of one spectrum is on one end you have sort of the woo-woo stuff, and on the other end you have sort of a reductionist scientific viewpoint where it's just like molecules interacting with neuronal receptors, right? And perhaps the way that we are approaching it is somewhere in between, right? Because both of those perspectives have a lot of value. So we respect science and what it has to offer. We very much respect traditional wisdom and other ways of knowing. And so we kind of are going to choose a middle path in that, and hope to attract other people who are capable of choosing that middle way rather than being dogmatically one way or the other. In a similar vein, we also recognize that entheogens are, it is a spiritual medicine. And so while we will certainly talk about therapy and treating pathology, we also know that these experiences are not limited to treatments, being treatments. There's a lot more happening, and so it is sort of a spiritual medicine and takes someone out of their perhaps therapeutic background as a particular type of therapist or physician or whatever. We're doing something a little different, with entheogenic medicine. So we want to respect that, and respect that we're all sort of new to this in a lot of ways, particularly those who are seeking training, in this field. So in that vein also, we are not going to dogmatically, preach any particular worldview. And in fact, we think it's really important that multiple worldviews be represented such that practitioners of entheogenic medicine are actually knowledgeable on a multitude of them, because we'll need to meet our clients where they're at, from the worldview that they hold, to the experiences that they are perhaps new to them, that have a need for grounding through a system. So we will be presenting a variety of ideas, including Buddhism, Kundalini, Rastafari, indigenous perspectives, as well as different forms of therapeutic perspective, parts work like internal family systems, somatic forms of therapy, and other sort of Western and mixed perspectives too. And so we're hoping to bring in people who can, maybe feel attracted to one way or the other, but can be open and understanding of people having different perspectives and worldviews. We also want to acknowledge that degrees and licenses do not necessarily make someone a good practitioner. They might be an indicator of experience, an indicator of dedication to a mission of helping people, but that alone is not enough. And so while our program might be oriented, it might consist mostly of licensed professionals, it will not be exclusively so. And what we are really looking for and hoping to put out into the world in terms of graduates of this program are people who are well-grounded and have done their personal work, that have a relationship with the medicine and can are really capable of holding space for other people. So we're looking for more of a quality in a person than someone with the right bullet points on the resume. And what we also hope to accomplish in this program is not to just fill you with information, but to also provide an avenue for some personal growth. And so we're coming up with creative ways to make this program really interactive and really growth oriented. We also place a great deal of emphasis on the community component, so that we're really grounded in connection to other people. I mean, in Oregon and in our field, and that's why I chose the name Synaptic. for this organization when I was putting it together. A synapse is a point of connection, and that's I feel what entheogens do is they show us the importance of connection to ourselves, to others, and to spirits, or whatever term you like to use, connection to the universe, or source, or whatever. But we're all greatly interdependent, and we want to reflect that in the way that we conduct ourselves throughout this organization and everyone involved in it. And as such, we are committed to doing so with integrity, with high ethical standards, with anti-racist policies and inclusivity and collaboration over competition. There are certainly going to be a lot of practitioners out there. There's undeniably we live in a capitalist world, and there's those sort of pressures. There's FOMO that just kind of happens. We live in the realm of hungry ghosts. But we want to set the intention to avoid the worst of those things that draw us into that sort of scarcity mentality, and come from a place of abundance and collaboration. So again, we always welcome anyone's accountability on that if you feel we stray off course. But I just want to put that out there as a really strong intention and value that we hold here. All right, so I'm going to talk about faculty, and I don't have time to do everyone justice because I want to make time for questions at the end. I have such an amazing group of people that have joined this mission, and so I just want to mention them and give you an idea of who's going to be teaching this program. I'll be teaching some of it, but you've already been introduced to me, so I'll just give you guys the rundown here. The first three are all part of AIMS Institute. That's the Advanced Integrative Medical Sciences Institute in Seattle. Some of you may have heard of Sunil Agarwal before. He is a board-certified physician in hospice and palliative care. He also has a PhD in medical geography. He is faculty at the University of Washington and Bastyr University. He's a well-known cannabis expert, has testified in many court cases on that subject. He's the co-founder and co-director of AIMS. He's involved in multiple clinical trials, and most recently, him and AIMS as an entity are suing the DEA to use the right to try law for making psilocybin accessible to people at end of life. So anyway, he's a rock star, and he's such a sweet, sweet soul. If you ever meet him, you'll feel like he's your best friend instantly. And he'll be certainly involved in many panels in the psilocybin program. He's also teaching and already has available an introduction to ketamine therapy program, which you could sign up for now. It's available through my website. And so he's a provider of ketamine-assisted therapy as well there. So next is the other co-founder, co-director of the AIMS Institute, which is Leanna Standish. She's a naturopathic physician and an acupuncturist, and also has her PhD in neuroscience. She specializes in oncology and neurology, and currently holds an investigational new drug study, a clinical trial, an FDA-approved clinical trial for ayahuasca. So they are, working on that. She has a group that is working on moving that forward. She's awesome, and so she will be teaching ultimately an ayahuasca training, which I haven't mentioned up to this point. But beyond just the Measure 109 psilocybin training, we'll also supplementary and separately be offering, or I should say complementary, offering trainings in ketamine and ayahuasca. Ketamine is available essentially now, some training in that. Ayahuasca is a little bit down the road, so it's not available yet, but Leanna is passionate about that. We'll be offering that, and we can say more about that in the future. Also at AIMS, their lead psychotherapist up there is Alison Drayson. She started a cannabis company way back when. It's been wildly successful. She advises people in using cannabis and does sort of a cannabis-assisted therapy model. She also is the director of their ketamine-assisted therapy training program that we're partnered with there. And so she's awesome. Her background is in art therapy, so that's kind of her niche. She's going to be offering for us a core counseling skills. So for anyone who doesn't have a psychotherapy background wanting to do this program, most likely you will be going through a 10 to 15 hour core counseling skills program with her. So that's a little bit about her. First man, I'm so excited that he is with us. I met him down in Jamaica, co-leading a psilocybin retreat down there. He is the founder of the Rastafari Indigenous Village down in Jamaica. Rastafarians have a long-standing tradition with ganja, cannabis, and he saw the potential in sort of bringing psilocybin into the tradition, and has studied. He kind of went on a tour, the course of many years studying with indigenous people in Central and South America, and brought that back and leads ceremony down there where he sings and just brings this really earth-centric, relationship-centric ceremony to it. And he's a beautiful soul, and is going to be offering basically a module in his experience. This will be online because he is in Jamaica, although we hope to offer potentially a sort of an elective field trip, if you will, to go down and do ceremony with him down in Jamaica. But he's going to be just an awesome addition to the program. Peter Addy, who is here with us tonight, I believe. He is PhD psychologist. He emphasizes transpersonal psychology. That's his training background. He did a postdoc at Yale, where he studied atypical psychedelics. He's one of the foremost experts on salvia divinorum. That's where he did his thesis on. And he does harm reduction work and integration work here in Washington and Oregon. He studied, traveled to Mexico and worked with the Mazatec people as well. And he's a good friend. So he'll be teaching in the program. We also have Lama Mike Crowley, who is an ordained Lama in the Tibetan Buddhism, has been for quite a long time, and wrote a really excellent book called Secret Drugs of Buddhism. It's been out for a little while now, and later this year, he's releasing his second book, which is Psychedelic Buddhism, which is essentially a guide to practicing Buddhism with psychedelic sacrament. And so that's what he's going to be teaching on this program. He'll teach a bit of history on kind of Eastern traditions, the origins of entheogen use in Eastern traditions. He's extremely knowledgeable in that area. So everyone will take that. And then if you're interested in Buddhism and what he has to offer as Buddhism as a sort of integration tool and ceremonial perspective, you can take his course. So he's also a sweet guy. All right, and then Talia, who I believe is here also, is an MFT, marriage and family therapist. She went to Lewis and Clark here in Portland, and is currently finishing up. She's almost done with another master's degree at Duke in bioethics and science policy. And she's just like a rock star in terms of what she contributes to this community and to Synaptic. She's very involved in the Journal Club, and I'll talk about Journal Club here in a little bit. But she also, I don't know if she'd want me to tell you this or not, but I'm going to brag about her anyway. She just got accepted I'm happy for her because it's awesome. I'm also a little disappointed because she was going to be more involved than she'll be able to now, but she just got accepted to a PhD program with Monica Williams up at University of Ottawa. So she will be teaching the ethics portion, or at least a big chunk of it, and kind of overseeing the ethics, bioethics portion of it. That's what she has done her thesis work on. So anyway, Talia is awesome. And then we also have Jared Franklin, who is a colleague of mine from UNM. He is an overachiever, just kind of like me, and went and got 3 graduate degrees: his doctorate in naturopathic medicine, master's in nutrition, and a master's in Ayurvedic medicine. So he brings quite a bit of integrative medicine perspective, and he's really passionate about making sure that healthcare in general, but also within the psychedelic movement, that it's a diverse, equitable, and inclusive space. And so that he's going to be kind of spearheading that diversity and equity module within the system, within the program. And then finally, we've got Erica Zelfan. She's also teaching in Intertrack, but she's going to be doing a few classes here, particularly the harm reduction and microdosing courses. She's actually the one who inspired me way back when to get into psychedelics. So she's just an amazing presenter. She's really funny and just really experienced as well. She's been doing this for a long time. She facilitates retreats all over the world and does ketamine work, and she's just awesome. So that's a little bit about our faculty. I have a few other people that not ready to announce them yet. In some cases, we're still sort of negotiating a role. In other cases, we have some people from the underground who will be teaching in this program. And Measure 109, brings this interesting issue of people who've been doing this underground work, who hold so much experience, coming above ground and kind of sharing that experience in a new legal framework. And so anyway, we've got some people coming from that perspective, and we'll announce them soon enough. But they're going to be there. Just so you know, it's not all just degree holding people. We've got some underground folks who can do more than explain what a peer-reviewed article says, because we can all read, but it's another thing to have that real hands-on experience. So we're going to have both represented in the program. Okay, a little bit about the general approach format. We're kind of getting some of the details of what we're going to be doing here at Synaptic. We're going to do cohorts of about 30 people. This first cohort is going to be unique in a couple ways. One is that we're only going to take Oregonians for this. We might down the road accept people from out of state because, for a while anyway, Oregon is going to be a unique place for people to come get this training. But we want to make sure that, we're serving people, high quality candidates for providing psilocybin services, get out there first. And those are people who are already here. And so if you're from out of state, you're welcome to, stay connected and just wait your turn. We'll serve you at another time if you're interested just a little bit down the road. Just wait a year, Let's see, what else do we have here? I already mentioned we'll be offering ketamine and ayahuasca training as well. And I think that's about it. We do want to have the most experienced practitioners again in this first cohort. So this is people who maybe are already doing the work in their legal jurisdictions, underground work, professionals with a lot of training already, so that it'll create a unique atmosphere for this first one because of the amount of experience. So, and I just saw that question pop in there. Experience it's going to be subjective. I don't have a definite. We'll kind of know it when we see it. But what I mean by someone who would be inexperienced is someone who's, let's say, a software engineer and just decides I'm going to be a, a psilocybin practitioner. This program is not for you right now. But if you're a software engineer and you decide I'm going to be a software practitioner, this program is for you. This program is for someone who's, let's say, a software engineer and just decides I'm going to be a psilocybin practitioner. This program is not for you right now. Maybe down the road we can take someone from scratch and make them a good practitioner, but right now we're front-loading those people who are already competent and getting them through this new hurdle. And for that matter, it's worth saying too that technically every trainer in this program is also going to be receiving the training in terms of getting the the license themselves. So I'll be participating, and everyone who's in Oregon anyway will be who's teaching the program will also be participating in it. So we're kind of in this together. Is what I'm saying. Okay, so a few things about the practicum. The board has already said that they're not going to make any exceptions for using psilocybin until January 2023. So for this first cohort, still will not be able to get direct psilocybin experience unless you travel for it. So if we want to go down to Jamaica and get some psilocybin experience, we can. So as a substitute for this first cohort only, we're going to use ketamine and breath work. So on the first retreat, basically we'll have, it's a 2-night retreat. We'll have a ceremony each night. Everyone will be paired up. You'll go through, kind of a mock, not really a mock because you're going to do it for real with your partner. It's just another student as opposed to a real patient. But you're going to go through a screening preparation. You're going to sit for each other during those ceremonies and integration. And then you're going to switch the other nights. And then we're also going to do some breath work, probably on the second retreat. And then preceptorship, if you're not familiar with that term, that's basically shadowing. So some people will be able to come kind of sit through some of my sessions with real patients in my clinic. Some of you will go up to Ames. We've got another faculty member I didn't mention earlier in Southern Oregon who runs a ketamine clinic. And we can also negotiate some other options besides just ketamine work, but it does have to be some form of legal therapy. So we can't, underground work can't work, doesn't count is what I'm trying to say. And then there's the supervision part, some of which will be done in group, some will be done individually with mentors, which we'll arrange with the faculty. The core training bits, there will be some suggested readings where possible. Some of it will be pre-recorded. Some of those pre-recorded courses are already available. Others will be added soon. That has the benefit of being self-paced, and it also bringing the overall cost of the program down a bit because it just doesn't require all the extra hours and paying instructors and whatnot. So some benefit there. The rest, the big chunk of it, otherwise will be online, and the other bits will be in person. The two in-person retreats, as I mentioned. We'll also be putting you into home groups of 3 or 4 people that you'll repeatedly go back to your home groups throughout the program, just as a point of contact and to have sort of home base to have connection throughout the program. But we'll also have a plan for pairing you up during different exercises with other people outside of your home group within the cohort. Just to foster that connection and sort of interdisciplinary exchange that can be really beneficial. And then we hope that you all make connections outside the defined training hours as well. A few other comments here. We're getting close to the end, and then we'll take some questions. But we will be including Journal Club. Journal Club, if you're not familiar with that term, is where people in a group get together and take turns presenting peer-reviewed journal articles. I've already been doing this for 2.5 years with Synaptic. We have a group that meets every other Friday at 1 on a donation basis, and we just take turns doing exactly that. Except for this program, it's going to be required. So you'll have to attend somewhere around 10 of them, and then at least once each student will have to do a presentation. And it's nothing to be stressed about. Just read a peer-reviewed journal, summarize it to the group, and then there's some discussion that happens. So it's a great way to kind of absorb and digest information in different formats and to hear from each other as opposed to just the faculty. So the hope is that in the future we'll be able to offer more diverse modules. That may not be the case in the first year or so of this program, just because we're still building it. And so in other words, you might have to take everything we have to offer to meet the required number of hours. But hopefully down the road, we're able to offer people who want to specialize in a particular field to get additional training. If you really want to just work in hospice, we're going to have an end of life module that everyone's going to take. So you're competent to talk about and understand some of the issues in that line of work. But if that's your field, you're gonna do and work in, or hopefully we'll be able to at some point offer you something a little deeper, a little more intensive than that. And not only just specialties in terms of treating specific conditions, but also perspectives. Like if you're drawn more toward Kundalini and not so much the Rastafarian stuff, you can take more electives that kind of suit your interests. But for now, like I said, we're still kind of working on all the hours, putting everything together. So you might just have to take everything we have as it is at this point. But anyway, here's some of the things. Everybody will cover basic harm reduction, trauma-informed care. We'll talk a lot about depression, dealing with addiction, end of life, eating disorders, all the legal requirements with this license you're going to be getting. We'll talk about different business models and the ethics of it. And we'll touch on other psychedelic substances as well. What are people actually doing? What are they using, and how can you answer questions for various issues like that? So I'm not going to go through the entire curriculum and show you like a bunch of boring, spreadsheets. But I want to just give you an example of one section. So one module, the history module, we have broken down like this, right? So and these titles are not even necessarily the ones we're going with. These are placeholders. But Mike Crowley is going to be teaching 2 separate courses on Eastern origins. I'll be teaching one on Western origins. Those will be pre-recorded. And then we'll have a live panel where we'll come together and answer questions, have discussion about the content over that material. And then the journal club, these will be pre-allotted. And so for this one, again, as a placeholder, this may not be final, but we'll make space for basically 4 students to present on, articles related to, historical, traditional, contemporary medicine, plant medicine practices, right? And so each module will have a certain allotment of journal club, right, and whatnot, and then we'll get to the minimum hours in that way. And so some of these will be pre-recorded, obviously, like I said. Some will be live, some of them will be covered in person. So kind of a few closing thoughts. I'm sure everyone, prominent question everyone wants to know is how much is this all going to cost, right? This is the scary part, I know. But a little bit about the process. I'm not opening applications yet. There's so many unknowns at this point. I don't want to touch anyone's money until I can tell you what all the dates are, what all the admissions criteria is going to be, some of those things. So expect an announcement probably somewhere around the 1st of June, at which point we'll open application. You'll fill out an online form. We'll probably charge around $10 to apply. And then, for those people who meet whatever criteria we're looking for, we'll be invited to an interview. Maybe 2 interviews, probably just one, with either me or someone else in the faculty. And if accepted, we'll ask for a $500 deposit to secure your spot. Now, we are talking with an organization or 2, kind of looking around for donations for scholarships. We really want to emphasize that this program is really representative of the general population in terms of, issues related, just to diversity and inclusion. So we're going to be very conscious of that. And we know cost is a big factor in making that happen. One of many factors, but an important one nonetheless. And so at the very least, I mean, even if we got no external funding, we are making it a priority to just build it into the cost of the budget of the program, and we are going to be able to offer at least a few limited scholarships. Probably won't be any total scholarships, and we'll get the program for free, but a few different tiers of discounts for people. And yeah, if you want to put us in touch with anybody who's interested in sponsoring, scholarships for people, we'd love to, hear from you. But you can expect, again, this is sort of a ballpark estimate at this point, but the program is probably going to be somewhere between $55 to $7,500. A lot of factors go into that, including the amount of waivable hours you'll get, as well as a few other unseen, unannounced costs to the program and to licensure and all that. So anyway, here's the last thing I have to tell you right now. I took a big risk because in looking for retreat spaces, I noticed a lot of them are filling up. And so I put down a deposit on a retreat space. So we will be at Alton Collins Retreat Center in Eagle Creek on August 26th through 28th. And if it's just me and my two kids blowing $20,000 for a weekend at a retreat center, so be it. Hopefully things work out. But save those dates. If you're interested, just keep them in mind. And hopefully long before that, we'll be able to tell you a lot more information. I will probably be having another information session just like this in about 2 months. And hopefully at that one, I can give you a lot more concrete information. It's just a matter of waiting for the board to, not just the board, but Oregon Health Authority to kind of put their final criteria out there to the public so that I can tell you more definitively what to expect. So that is the presentation that I have for you. What questions do you all have? And feel free to, shoot me an email and, ask any questions that you might have, or suggestions, ideas, whatnot, something I didn't cover. But I'll take some questions now here. So I'm going to just go scroll through the chat box, and I'm going to stop the screen share as well and see what we got. Okay. What does experienced practitioner mean? What about underground practitioners? I think I answered that. From online hybrid, I believe I answered that too. It will be hybrid. So online, some pre-recorded, some live online, and then those 2 retreats in person. Will I consider attending the journal clubs part of the required hours, or is that an additional requirement? It will be required. And like I said, most of it will just be attending, but every student will be required to present at least once, and that's a program decision. That's I believe in the importance of that, and being able to read scientific literature and understand it and talk about it intelligently with among colleagues. And so I think that's an important skill. And not that we're training anyone to be scientists here, but I think it's a good practice. So and it's served me well, and we have a pretty robust journal club that's been going for a couple of years now, which you're all welcome to. If you want to send me an email to join that, check it out. You're invited. We talk about not just psilocybin, but psychedelics in general. Okay, let's see. Another question. For those in the first cohort, will they be able to take standalone specialized classes as continued education when they become available, without taking the core modules again? Let's see if I understand. trying to understand this question. In the first cohort, specialized classes. Well, I'm not 100% sure I understand what you're asking, but there will be, like I said, there will be a pretty robust set of like basic concepts that will be covered in the core curriculum that everyone will take, right? So everyone will get trauma-informed care. Everyone will get depression. Everyone will get some information about eating disorders, as well as, like I said, perspectives about transpersonal psychology and Kundalini and Buddhism and whatever. But for those wanting a deeper dive in any one of those things, the master plan is to have electives in those things that you can focus on them more. I can't promise you right now that there will be a ton of electives for you to specialize in. That might be something where you choose your mentor according to the thing you want to specialize in. We'll have mentors with a variety of backgrounds that you can gain from their experience. You can also choose a journal club article to present that gets at the thing you want to specialize in. So there are ways to get that. And once you're a part of the Synaptic community, there will be opportunity to continue to participate and connect with others who share your special interest. So anyway, I hope that answers the question. If it didn't, please ask another one. I'll try to clarify. Let's see. How long will the training be? The training is going to be about 6 months. Yeah, thank you for that question. I guess I didn't put it anywhere in there. And other thing I didn't mention about the format that brings to mind too is like, when are these things going to be, right? So I said August, late August for the first in-person retreat. We're looking at probably early December for the second in-person retreat, which may be sort of the grand finale. At that point, we'll see how we fit everything in. There will be a few kind of online weekend intensives. So that might be, like 3 hours on a Saturday, 4 hours on a Sunday kind of approach. Or we might split those up. I don't have those, I don't have it scheduled out yet. Some of them, like for example, what I've talked to First Man about in his Rastafarian sort of module is doing something like 2 hours on a weeknight. So maybe let's say Tuesday from 6 to 8. You're online with First Man, and maybe that's every other week for 10 sessions, something like that. So again, going back, and this is still one of those uncertainty things that I'm sorry is disappointing to hear. I wish I had more concrete things to tell you. But we'll make sure nothing overlaps, right? So people can take whatever they need to, and hopefully we have enough to offer that you can you don't have to take everything, or we can offer multiple iterations in it. But the attendance policy might, by necessity, be pretty strict. So your capacity to like miss stuff is going to be pretty low. And if you have to, you might just have to extend into the next cohort to make up for it. But yeah, the program will be about 6 months, and those will be some of the time commitments, what they'll look like. Hope that makes sense. Do you know of anyone who make malpractice insurance for facilitators? Nope, have no idea. That's something that a lot of people are talking about. They don't really have much to say about it in terms of who will cover psilocybin. But I don't know if anybody will or has put together a company that will yet. Let's see. Supervised experience for AMFTs. I'm not sure what the A in the MFTs is, marriage and family therapists. I mean, I know some marriage and family therapists who will be supervisors in this program, or mentors at least in the program. But in terms of the requirements for supervision, this psilocybin like service provider is a completely new profession, and so they are making up those rules now. They are setting up a system where there is, you'll have to like apply to be a lead educator, right? So I'm going to be applying for that for my program. There'll be a way to get a service center, not only a service center, but also a practicum site, which will be a service center that is approved to be a practicum site for students to come observe, right? And then a supervisor to observe those practicum students doing their practicum portion. So that, there is going to be that, but we're talking about a relatively small number of hours. And if your question is regarding your particular professional board, it's going to be completely separate, and I can't really speak to that. So whether that would, count, even if you're, mentor in this program or an MFT, it may not count for your MFT requirements. So anyway, that's what I can tell you. Okay, will practitioners need to facilitate sessions in licensed facilities, or is the practitioner license the only requirement for facilitating sessions? No, you have to do it in a licensed facility. You don't have to have your own facility, but you have to practice in a licensed facility. So you'll have to work with somebody who gets one of those, or get one yourself. You can hold both licenses, but you have to both criteria has to be met, and your psilocybin has to come from a licensed grower as well. Then will all licensed practitioners have the ability to administer medicine themselves? Are there specific qualifications? No, everything is included in this program. So within the Measure 109 procedure, you can, like I said, you can get a facility license for a facility. You can get a facilitator license. You could get your own license to grow mushrooms. You could have you could even get a laboratory license. I'm not sure what all the requirements are for all those other things, but you could be a one-stop shop theoretically. Or you could just be a facilitator, use someone else's facility, someone else's mushrooms, that has licenses for it. But you don't have to have a medical license. You don't have to be dependent on any other professional other than someone who has those licenses. Could a group of facilitators pull together and get a facility license as a type of co-op? Sure, sounds good. Sign me up. I don't have a facility yet, so I have a clinic, but I'm going to be moving soon, and we'll need to get a place that meets the criteria for a service center. So yeah, you can do exactly that. All right. Well, I got to the bottom of the questions that have been typed in here. We've gone over an hour, so I want to respect people's time. Unless anyone has any last-minute questions, you could also pop on the screen if you want. If you don't want to type them, I can stick around for a few more minutes. Otherwise, we'll sign off. And thank you, everybody, for being here. I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording. How about that?